Welcome to this month's planning preview for January 9th, 2020. I got Jason Beaver here with the planning department.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And just to start out, so our meeting this month is on Thursday, January 9th. Usually we have them on Wednesday, but this month it's on Thursday. So we just want to make a clear point that it got moved, just so that everyone knows. But jumping right into it, number one looks like a rezone from ag and I-1 to conservation. And it looks like that's south of East 60th Street North when I looked it up.
Yeah, just kind of northeast corner of 229 and Benson, some development foundation land. And they're looking at just rezoning a portion of a parcel for conservation. That area will be used kind of for a drainage area, and then that'll be for a future industrial development, which kind of that whole area is. So,
okay. And then it looks like number two, it's going from C4 to S1, General Institution. And that's at Veterans Parkway and East 57th Street.
Yeah, so this is the northeast corner of Veterans Parkway and 57th Street. It's property owned by Sanford. And they're just kind of trying to get their parcel zoned to institutional, similar to some of their other campuses and their campus uses. So,
okay. And then looks like number three, there's an initial development plan for South Dakota Public Universities and Research Center. That's the USD Discovery District, if I remember right.
Yep, correct. That's up there by University Center, the Discovery District, USD, kind of one of those big, exciting campus planned unit developments. And it looks like we're getting an initial development plan kind of for the whole area, and really to start constructing some of the buildings up there, which is kind of an exciting opportunity to get some more buildings constructed. Yep. So it's a good project up there.
And then number four is, it looks like a TIF 22 application for a proposed TIF district, the Sioux Steel.
Yeah, this is a TIF application that for the Sioux Steel development, and after the break we'll have one of our urban planners, Dustin Powers, who's kind of our TIF expert, really kind of dive pretty deep down into the actual project and then give you some actual information in TIF and some other things there.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll be right back with Dustin Powers will be joining us here. So come back. We'll see you soon.
Don't be slippin'. Not your grade in high school geometry slippin'. More like icy road slippin'. We know winter weather can make driving conditions tough. That's why it's always important to be prepared. Keep an emergency kit in your vehicle. Check road reports for closings or hazardous conditions. Don't crowd the plow. And be aware of your surroundings in case of a breakdown, because you never know what's out there. Take this winter by the wheel. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay on the road. Minnehaha County Highway Department, celebrating 100 years of happy highways.
Hi, I'm Dr. Holmes with Falls Community Health. Living in the Midwest, we know that the winter months can come with some challenges. For some, this might include changes in mood and an impact on mental health. Seasonal affective disorder is a condition that often occurs in the fall or winter and may either cause or worsen depression. This condition is common and can lead to a loss of interest in activities you enjoy or cause feelings of sadness or hopelessness. Other symptoms may include changes in appetite, energy level, and memory. Sometimes seasonal affective disorder can be so severe to cause thoughts of self-harm. But fortunately, this condition is treatable with use of light therapy, counseling, or medications. Exercise and proper sleep habits are important for maintaining good physical and mental health as well. If you have questions about seasonal affective disorder, contact your doctor or Falls Community Health.
Welcome back. As promised, we've got Dustin Powers from the city here to talk about the Big Sioux Steel project. What does this project entail?
Yeah, this is an exciting project that's come forward. Over the years, there's been a lot of discussion downtown specifically about the Sioux Steel site.
It's a 10-acre site that's really been used over the last 100 years as an industrial site for the Sioux Steel Company. And over the last couple years, they've been looking at the redevelopment of that site and how that could contribute to downtown Sioux Falls and its mixed-use environment. And so Lloyd Companies is the company that's working with the family to redevelop the site and is controlling that redevelopment. And they've brought forward a very significant project to our downtown. And so some of the details of that project, there's really 3 main structures that'll be built as part of the project. The first being a hotel and convention center, which will total about $75 million in investment. That'll include a 7-story hotel with over 200 hotel rooms, and then attached to that will be a 2-story convention center meeting room space that's about 60,000 square feet in total size, but it'll be a nice complement to what we already have here in Sioux Falls with the Sioux Falls Convention Center, as well as some of the other meeting rooms and larger hotels that have convention space in our city. Also included in the project is a office tower, which is a 9-story office building with the main level being a retail space, so the main level being retail usage, but 8 levels of office space above that. That building itself will total about 140,000 square feet of usable space that they'll be using, which is a major size building for our downtown skyline. Yep. Also in that building, a very interesting concept is that they're having one of the restaurant spaces is right along the Big Sioux River on the north side of the south side of the Falls Park overlook. So you'll be able to take a look they'll be able to sit in that restaurant and actually be able to see the falls as they're going over the water's going over the falls. And then the third main building is kind of 2 buildings in one. The first part of that being a parking ramp structure to house the parking for the entire development. And that'll be about an 8-story building that'll total about 900 parking spaces. And built around that will actually be what they're considered a kind of a mixed-use wrap building. So around the edge of the building, what they'll have is a main level of retail space kind of all the way around the building, along with 100 apartment units going up 5 stories that'll really encapsulate the ramp, and you won't be able to see the actual parking ramp itself. You'll just see that mixed-use development, which really contributes to the walkability of the area and is consistent with what we'd like to see in our downtown district. So total investment of all of those buildings is about $186 million. Cumulatively, all of those buildings would definitely be the largest project we've had occur at one time in our downtown district, which is very exciting to see that type of growth and that type of investment into our core of our city. And then as part of that, so one of the things that they're looking at doing is starting construction next year in 2020 with the completion in 2022. But before starting construction, one of the requests that they have that's on the Planning Commission agenda is a request for TIF.
Okay. And is the whole project going to be done in 2022?
Very much of it will be done. There'll still be some finish out of some of the build out of the office space and maybe some of the residential units. But the intention at 2022, like summer of 2022, would be to have the hotel, convention space, and ramp open. And then tenants for the office building and the residential would also be moving in around that time. But there may still be some finish out of that project. And there's also opportunity on that parking ramp to build all the way around it. They're really focused on about 3/4 of the building right now, or the wrap will be, but there's also an opportunity to come all the way around. So that would be in addition to any of the square footages or price tag that I've already shared. So
there's some discussion, about using a TIF for this project. Can you share for those who may not know what a TIF is?
Yeah, so one of the things, TIF stands for tax increment financing, and what that is it's an incentive that's utilized by municipalities or government entities to really bring and attract private development and investment into our communities. In the state of South Dakota, TIF can be considered for a couple of different reasons. One being that 25% of the site is considered blighted, and there's a definition of that in codified law. But also, the other option is that at least 50% of the site is going to be promoting economic development or general economic development welfare of our state. And so what that specifically means is that we are promoting commercial, industrial, agricultural business in the state, and that's one way to accomplish or be able to utilize TIF as an incentive. Traditionally here in Sioux Falls and across the state of South Dakota, what that really comes down to being is that you're using TIF funds to help revitalize blighted areas or areas that are underdeveloped, or also you can utilize it as a way to promote or enhance the development that's coming forward. So promoting greater economic development for a community, or also promoting state economic development through the use of TIF. And so that's really what we've used it for here in the state of South Dakota as well as Sioux Falls. What I would say, the easiest way to explain TIF is that when you start a TIF, you have a base value, and that generates a certain amount of taxes. After you do the development, you have another value that's much higher and has an increase in taxes. And what we do is we utilize that increase of taxes, which is called the tax increment, to help fund project expenses that would go to promote the overall project in the district that it's being created for.
Okay. And usually, if I remember right, they're usually over 20 years.
Yeah, so the life expectancy of TIF is maxed at 20 years in South Dakota. So depending on the project itself, it could pay off sooner than that, but the most that it could pay out for, the length of time it could pay out for, is the 20 years.
Okay. And so what is this TIF request?
Yeah, so with the Lloyd project that we talked about being $186 million, a part of that was the parking ramp structure, and the ability for them to build the density that they're showing and sharing with us with that project is difficult when it comes to the cost of the parking ramp. The parking structure is kind of the bogey in terms of being able to get the density in the project completed. And so what they've requested is a $21.5 million TIF that would go to fund the parking ramp improvement. Along with that, then, using the TIF funds or the property taxes to support the improvement of the ramp or the building of the ramp, what they would be allowing to do is public accessibility to the parking ramp. So what they're wanting to do is making it very consistent with what we currently have in our current public parking systems here in the city of Sioux Falls. So during the day, obviously with the office space and residential and hotel, they'll have a number of those spaces leased out of that 900, but there'll be extras that'll be available for the public to come and park in while they visit, like the retail shops or the offices, the restaurants down there. And then obviously after hours, once the office environment closes, there'll be many more spaces available in the parking ramp that'll be available kind of on those nights and weekends for the public to come park in. I think the importance of the parking ramp is not just for the side of the Sioux Steel development either. If you recall, we have redeveloped Falls Park West, which is where the Levitt Shell is. And in the summer months during those concerts, we have several thousand people come down and attend those events. And it'd be very beneficial to have additional parking in the area to be able to, allow the public to be able to park there. They could attend the Levitt event as well as any of the activities that'll be happening on the Sioux Steel site that'll be new to downtown.
If I remember right from past TIFs, we've typically, a TIF amount is in between that 6 to 11%, if I remember right, just looking at past TIFs we've done.
Yeah, so you're speaking about the participation rate, which is basically you take the amount of the TIF divided by the overall project cost. And so with this project being looking at a $21.5 million TIF, the overall value of the project is $186 million. We're about at 11.6% participation rate. One of the things that we look at in terms of how high that participation rate gets is traditionally in Sioux Falls we've kind of targeted at least below 15% participation rate. We usually hover around the 10%, but one of the things we look at, you look at scale, we look at, how the project meets our other cities' goals. So in this case, we would look at our comprehensive plan as well as our downtown plan. And if a project is really accentuating and really doing a lot for our community, then it's a reason maybe to go a little bit higher. But again, at 11.6%, we're really definitely in the range in which we typically target for participation rate with TIF.
So what is considered by the Planning Commission and the City Council for a TIF?
Yeah, so there's a number of different elements that have to be brought forward to both the Planning Commission and the City Council for a TIF to be approved. The first two items are really the project boundaries or the district boundaries. So that'll be the properties that are in the tax increment district. And so that's the first thing that the Planning Commission will look at. They'll also look at, in coordination with that, is what's called the project plan, the TIF plan, and that'll outlay all of the details of the TIF. So essentially how much the project investment is, how much is being asked for TIF, the feasibility of the TIF to pay back, as well as the effect that it will have on the taxing entities that are the ones that collect property taxes. So with any project here in Sioux Falls, you're looking at the Sioux Falls School District, the county, as well as the city, and the East Dakota Water District are all entities that collect property taxes. And so those are the ones that we work with to notify and make sure that they're aware that the requests are coming forward. But ultimately, the Planning Commission will then make a decision on approving, obviously, the boundary as well as the plan. And they'll make that recommendation to City Council for their consideration. And then City Council will consider both the boundary and the plan that have those details in it, but they'll also consider a development agreement. Okay. And what that development agreement will be is really outlines the details of what the TIF is approved for, how much it's approved for, and the time frame in which the TIF will be paid back. So it really locks everything in. And that is approved by an ordinance as it's a use of public dollars. Okay. So those are really the three things that'll be coming forward, both to the Planning Commission and City Council. As we're meeting here today, obviously the City Planning Commission meeting is established for Thursday, January 9th. So that's when that'll be considered, both the boundary and the plan. And then we'll be looking at going to City Council following that meeting. So probably later in January and early February is what we'll be targeting with the City Council.
And so what's the overall impact to a project, to our city, a project that's this size? Mm-hmm. I mean, it has to bring a lot of impact to the community, I would think.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we take a look at when we look at the fiscal impact that this has on our community. Obviously, when we talk about tax increment financing, we're really focused on property tax dollars. And so just to look at those first, the current valuation of the Sioux Steel property is a little over $3.1 million and generates $57,000 in property tax. So that's where we stand today with the current property and the use of the property. Once these three buildings are completed and the project's completed, that valuation will increase from $3.1 million to a minimum of $80 million, or roughly $80 million at the beginning. And so that $80 million will actually generate $1.6 million in property taxes. So as you can see, we're increasing from $50,000, $57,000 to $1.6 million. With the property taxes, obviously, that $1.6 million is what's being used to pay back for the parking ramp in this instance. And so over that period of time, that 20 years is what those funds will be used for. But following the completion of the tax increment district, then all of those funds then come back to all the taxing entities. So it's a way to generate, obviously, additional revenue through property taxes. And if without the use of TIF, the project will either be less than it is or not happen at all. And so that's the reason that communities use TIFs to really bring these projects forward. Beyond property taxes, though, obviously the city of Sioux Falls as well as the state collect a number of other taxes that this project will bring revenue to both the city and the state, and that's through sales tax. Mm-hmm. So the city obviously has a 2% sales tax. The state has a 4.5% sales tax. There's also a state tourism tax and a city lodging and a city entertainment tax that are collected. And then for the hotel, since this project does entail a hotel, there's additional tax that's collected and given to our CVB to promote Sioux Falls and the hotels here and the visitors, basically the visitors industry of Sioux Falls. And so again, when you add all those things up and look at the total there, on an annual basis, there's roughly about $2 million that'll be collected through all those taxes that are immediate revenue to the city of Sioux Falls and the state. So again, a very, very big benefit. And then Also, just looking at the density of this site, this is a lot of development to bring to our downtown area has been growing over the last decade and has continued to grow. And to bring this amount of investment, when you think about the hotels, so hospitality, the convention center, jobs with the office and retail stores, along with the residents that'll be living down here, that'll in itself create not just economic development for the site of Sioux Steel, but obviously all those people that are going to be staying in the hotel or working in those offices or living down there will also help the surrounding businesses in our downtown by supporting them. And again, just the general economic benefit of this project is tremendously great. So
Yeah. Anything else you want to tell us about the project?
yeah, I think when we talk about planning and the planning commission as well as just the planning department and what we look at, a few years ago we adopted the 2025 downtown plan, and that really set out a vision for what downtown should look like. One of the items that called out was that downtown has continued to emerge as an economic development amenity for the city of Sioux Falls as well as the Sioux Falls region, meaning that when visitors are looking to travel or businesses are looking to relocate or people are looking to find a new job somewhere or live somewhere new, our downtown is something that people come look at to see whether or not this is a community they want to see. And so it's really become that economic development amenity similar to our parks, our school districts, all the things that people look at when they look to move or visit. And I think a project of this scale is just one more thing that we can add to our downtown that really will promote that and the vision of our downtown that was established in the 2025 plan. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
And telling
Thanks
us
for
about this TIF. Again, just to let you know, the meeting is on Thursday. Usually we have them Wednesday, but this month we're pushed to Thursday at 6 p.m. at Carnegie Town Hall, and that's going to be January 9th, Thursday. This will wrap up your planning preview for January 9th, 2020. Thank you.